watching Gears and Gasoline. I'm Ben, your host, and today we're conducting a little scientific experiment. We're driving a 2014 Scion FRS, and we're going to refer to this as our control group. Now in 2013, Scion and Subaru released the FRS and the BRZ respectively, and car enthusiasts went nuts because they finally had the opportunity to get their hands on a new car that used the old sports car formula, something that was light and fun to play around with not too much horsepower, but rear-wheel drive. If the Scion FRS was a person, you would say that it had a good heart. It had something that you can't teach. It had a good chassis and power going to the right wheels. Now the FRS doesn't have a lot of power. It's got just a hair under 200 at the engine. And that was never really the point. The car didn't leave the factory as a race car. It left with really hard tires, suspension that was tuned for the road more than it was tuned for a racetrack, and brakes that kind of gave up when you started to lean on them. Now the difference is that all those factors can be fixed relatively easily without too much monetary investment and just a few modifications. And to be perfectly honest, if you're driving around at speeds that you would hit on any public road, you're really rarely going to notice those limitations. Now what is an appreciable deficit is the amount of power that this thing has, and it is not a problem that's easily remedied. Trying to get more power out of this FA motor is like trying to wring blood from a stone. You can do all the exhaust and intake mods and plenums that you want, but it is not going to make an appreciable amount more power. Now for years, enthusiasts have pleaded with Toyota and Subaru to make a TRD or an STI version of these cars, just to give it force induction, more power, put some pep in its step. But for 4 years, all those pleas have gone unheard, and I don't honestly think we're ever going to get to see those versions of this car. Hey Ben, what you got there?
Nothing. So this is a 2016 BRZ, and of course this one is supercharged. So it's making 290 wheel horsepower, while the factory BRZ has only made 200 horsepower at the crank. And of course power isn't the only thing that matters. This car's got a lot of other modifications done to it as well. Wider front fenders, it's got a big rocket bunny rear spoiler, it's got a full exhaust, and it's running flex fuel, so it's got E85 in it. And of course, it's on air suspension, Airlift V2s. Now, people like to hate on air. I mean, we like to hate on air. But if there's one thing we learned from Chuck Spec B, it's that air isn't always bad. I mean, coilovers are definitely going to handle better, but the owner of this car likes the way the air looks, so that's his call. Now, this car's been modified a ton, and the biggest change is definitely the power. It's not as easy as driving a stock FRS where you can just go flat out all the time through the corners. With this, you've really got to be careful. You've got to be a little bit more judicious with the throttle.
The centrifugal style supercharger in the BRZ added enough horsepower to the car that it felt like a much more potent and aggressive package. However, the linear delivery of power and the flat power band that it provided, in my opinion, kept the forced induction from corrupting the driving experience, and really resulted in a car that ultimately felt like it took itself much more seriously than a playful FRS.
Baby, I'm grown. Really the realest, wouldn't be faking it. I think your pride is just
supercharger and the power, it's almost like you're losing something about these cars. The 8.6 is a car that almost rebels in its lack of power. It comes from the line of the Mazda Miata and the Lotus Elan, MGs and various BMWs, where the fun is not having power. You can drive it at 10/10ths all the time and you just have fun with it. And that's why this car comes with Prius tires. It's not a supercar, it's not a Corvette or a 911, it's a Miata or an E30.
Ultimately, I enjoyed the FRS as a driving experience more than the BRZ. As intoxicating as gobs of power in a light car can be, the limitations of air suspension and the flawless balance that the FRS came with from the factory meant that I could really only ever choose the Scion. That being said, I can understand how the lack of power in the stock GT86 cars might eventually wear on an owner. In fact, the owner of this Scion will be selling it very soon for a more powerful Subaru WRX. And with more traditional suspension, Dan's BRZ could very well be my ideal 8.6. And that's the beauty of these cars. They're delivered with just the right components for you to make your own fun.
So if you find yourself with an FRS or a BRZ and you're complaining that they don't make enough power, you've got plenty of options. There's a lot of superchargers and turbochargers out there to put some serious kick into these FA motors.
But if you're thinking about picking up an FRS, BRZ, or GT86 and you're worried about getting bored, don't be. Forced induction is not a requirement to have fun in these cars, and in many cases your money might be better spent on other things like suspension, brakes, or definitely tires. Either way, you really can't go wrong with this family of little coupes, so get out there and have some fun in an 8.6.
Want to trade?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.